The Institute of Research in Learning Disability.
അത് ഇവിടെ ആക്ച്വലി LDയുടെ പ്രോഗ്രാം ഇവിടെ ഇല്ല. ഇതിൻ്റെ കീഴിലായിരുന്നു എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു. ഇല്ലെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു, കറക്റ്റ് അറിയില്ല. മോളിലാണ് ഓഫീസ്, പക്ഷെ ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു പ്രോഗ്രാം നടക്കുകയാണ്. സാറുണ്ട്, പക്ഷെ സാറ് പ്രോഗ്രാമില്ല. ഓഫീസിൽ ചോദിച്ചാൽ മതിയോ? റൈറ്റ് സൈഡ്.
One that is good enough. There's another sound that's nice. Unmute yourself.
Are we ready to start, sir?
Oh, yes, ma'am. We will start shortly.
Okay, I think so, because it's a bit late otherwise.
Yeah,
Okay.
We will
Shall
start.
I start?
Oh, Tindu, please start.
Yes. Good evening, everyone, and on behalf of the School of Behavior Sciences, MG University, I extend a warm welcome to all of you to today's webinar on Applied Sports Psychology and Career Options by Dr. Jolie Roy. Thank you for joining us today. The sports that we see is just not a game involving kinetics or the muscles involved actively to play the perfect shot. It is a game that has been executed many times in the mind of the player before coming to the actual ground. Having a sound state of mind is very important for a sports person, and that's where a sports psychologist plays their role. With the emphasis on sports and exercise in society, it's no wonder that sports psychology is a growing specialty within the broader field of psychology. It's a matter of great pleasure that School of Behavioral Sciences is organizing webinars on recent advances in our field. Today, we will be listening to Applied Sports Psychology and Career Options. Let me extend a warm welcome to our Director and HOD, Dr. Rajiv Kumar, Dean and Professor, Dr. P.S. Sukumaran, Assistant Professors, Dr. Muhammad Mustafa, Mr. Rajeshan, Mrs. Rinsumol Matthew, Ms. Swati Mol P.S., and Associate Professor, Dr. Baraj P.T., counselors, lecturers, and fellow students. On behalf of the faculties at School of Behavior Sciences, I extend a warm welcome to our resource person, Dr. Jolie Roy. Now, let me invite our Director and Head of the Department, Dr. Rajiv Kumar, for Presidential Address. Sir, over to you. Rajiv, sir.
A very warm good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon.
So, we are assembled here for a webinar on sports psychology. So, I hope that here is a platform with eminent personalities, teachers, researchers, our young aspiring students from undergraduate, postgraduate, and research students. Also, the like-minded people are here I welcome each one of you to this webinar. As you are aware, sports is very important part in our current society. We are all aspire for winning every match, every game, everywhere. So the sports psychology is a supporting system which utilizing the knowledge from cognitive psychology, knowledge from personality, knowledge from motivation, and similar other areas of psychology, coordinately integrated to the field of sports psychology for optimizing the performance of our sportsmen, our athletes. So in this scenario, sports psychology has a wider scope and application. Today we have with us Professor Jolie Roy, Professor Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, Porur, Chennai. She is an eminent at the current scenario in our society. I am very happy to welcome, and also I'd like to talk few words about her. Like she was a graduate and postgraduate from psychology as well as from social work. She did her PhD in sports psychology. She worked as a research trainer and get trained from Florida University as well as from Finland. She has, with her credit, several research papers. Notably, recently she published a paper. Is a title that is new approach in evaluating athletes' pre-performance mental stats in an applied context. So, in such a way, as a researcher, as a trainer, as a teacher, she has an excellent performance grade or status in the current Indian scenario. So I am very happy to invite her in this webinar and encourage our young ones to absorb the elements of sports psychology and gain greater insight as well as opt their career in this eminent field and become a part of our applied psychology. I am very happy to invite our professor, today's resource person, Professor Jolie Roy, Professor Sri Ramachandra Institute of Higher Education and Research, Chennai, for this webinar for talking about sports psychology. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and I welcome all of you for this applied sports psychology and career options. In this presentation, I am using a lot of examples from the work that I have done. It's difficult to concise everything into this 30 minutes of presentation. So some of these things might look a little abstract to you, but doesn't matter. The idea is for the youngsters to understand that there is something called sports and exercise psychology options that's coming up. So without much introduction, I just want to say sports psychology basically is a science in which principles of psychology are applied in sports and exercise setting. Right there you can see our lab, our students are there on the left side. We have about 90 to approximately 90 sports science students doing their undergraduation or BSc 4 years course. And on the right side you see the Government of India, Khelo India rowing athletes using our lab facilities. Now let's go straight into career options and the different settings. Now a few of them are listed here, so that the main thing is where, suppose you are a sports psychologist, you pursue a career, you may be working with high performance setting, that is with the national athletes, junior national athletes, You can work in exercise setting. You can work in educational setting, in rehabilitation setting, in academic fields, research as a research scientist, in community settings, and if nothing works, you can have your own personal setting. Subsequent slides, what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain to you each and every one. The one which I explain more would be on the national level, because that is the area where I have been working for the last 35 years. So let's move on with the national athletes, or high performance athletes as we call them. Here represent Olympics, who represents Asian Games, who represents World Championships, and the junior level athletes. So how can a sports psychologist work in a high performance context? Now, if those of you who are from the psychology background and who don't understand, the sports team will consist of a team. There are national coaches, assistant coaches, coaches for goalkeepers, coaches for different segments depending upon the team, and you have the athletes. Now, to support this team, you have a sports medicine team, which consists of doctors, physiotherapists, sports measures, and there are other people who would be depending upon like the requirement or where the team is traveling. Staff consists of sports science team, which has got conditioning experts, physiologists, psychologists. That's where our role comes in. Sports nutritionist, sports biomechanics, and performance analyst. Other than that, you have the kitmen, you have the athletes, and you have the assistants. In some cases, you also have the cooks who travel with the team. So for those of you who have not understood what is a sports team, you probably are seeing only the team and the coaches and the athletes, but there are a lot of people behind the scene who work to sustain this team. How does the whole principle work? Now, for example, we have a Tokyo Olympics coming. So we have a pre-competition period, we have a competition period, we have a post-competition period. Now, for those of you who are from physical education background, will understand it quickly, but if any of you are from psychology and have never been into sport, that's the reason I'm giving this. So even in a pre-competition period, you have a long-term preparation. That's what's happening right now. Competition, you have a short-term preparation. Then in the competition period, you have a pre-game preparation. Then immediately at the start of the game, you have a preparation. Then you have a period of competition, and then you go in for a post-competition period after the competition. That's a transition phase. Now, I'll explain this. When you plan a psychological support for the team, please understand there is a preparatory phase, competition phase, and a transition phase. So it is in this preparatory phase, you get all the time to load them, to have a psychology loading. That means you can teach them the different skills, whatever you're learning in the college right now. So you have a general preparation period and you have a specific preparation period. And you would notice that most of the psychological skills we teach them here, and it reduces towards a specific preparation time. When they come to competitive situation, we have very few skills that we ask them to use. When they come for NC is the main competition. Only the essentials are used at the time of competition, and then they go for transition, where we ask them to just maintain the skills. Like if you're teaching a breathing skill, ask them to maintain, because after one particular game, season, they come back for the next season. And here you would notice in the GP, we do not again teach them the same loading. The loading is less over here. So when you plan a psychology training, there is a principle of loading which we plan for this. Now with this psychological skill training we do, so we work on their foundation skills, we work on their performance skills, we work on their personal development skills, and then we work on their team skills. So when you say foundation skills, you have achievement drive, that's your motivation, your self-awareness, your productive thinking, confidence level. the performance skill. This is more about stress and energy balance, arousal performance. When you move into personal development skill, we talked about athletic identity, interpersonal competence, life skills. And when we talk about team skills, we talk about group cohesion, leadership, communication. These are the general things. Under this, there are many that we will be using and training. But this is the plan of psychological skill training. So when we come into pre-competition period, what do we do as a sports psychologist? Suppose you finish your master's in psychology and Sports Authority of India employs you as a sports psychologist. You're straight away working with the national team. And so you really need to know how to deal with these big names. So the first step would be, when they come to you, they come for initial need analysis and dialogue. Then you have to have your baseline assessment if you need it, planning the protocol of intervention, what you should do. Then you can give the psychological skill training or the interventions. I just now finished that slide to tell you what is the PST training we follow. Periodical monitoring once you start the intervention, and then the modifications. If you think they need to change, you need to change in between. And of course, your evaluation and feedback from them, and your own reflective practice. What did you do? What you think you should have done differently? These are very important. So this is what you do in the pre-competition period. When you come to a competition period, you are monitoring their psychological state. Maybe you are in a different country. You're checking whether the athletes are getting into an optimal zone. You're checking the sports demand of that particular game, because that's where the different opponents come in. What is the resource that you have, and what is the demand resource balance that our athletes have. Step 4, you're refocusing on their strength. We don't work much on their weaknesses. We started working more on their strength. A few years back, when I started my career, we were working more on their weakness. But now, we've changed the paradigm and we work more on their strength. Step 5, using essential psychological skills. What are the essentials that you can use? In my previous slides, I said in the periodization, how we choose what is essential for the competition period. And 6th one is the clutch performance in the game. I don't know if you have heard this term. So it means under an extreme pressure, athletes can sometimes choke. The opposite of choking is called clutch performance. The athletes can summon all available physical and mental strength to succeed at any cost. And this is what you see in a do or die situation. Sometimes you see in football, the last 30 minutes, the last 90 minutes they would have played, or they would have given extra time, and in the last 30 seconds they would have scored a goal. So that's what competition period is all about. Post-competition period, of course, there's the rest and recovery, practicing essential skills, maintaining the skills when they know that it's instrumental for future tasks. Because an athlete, once he's a national athlete, he's there for 10 to 15 years. So this is the basic steps. I've broken down into steps. If any of them, sorry, listening to me are senior level professors, please excuse me, but I've done it broken down into steps so that the young students understand what I'm talking. I know the professors would already know these things. So now I'm going to show you some pictures. These are some extracts of the work that I have done with the national athletes. I was not working in this country for last 12 to 15 years. I was abroad. So some of the pictures are from there, and I've just recently come back to India. A few of them are from India also. So some of these pictures I won't be able to cover everything. So I've taken the abstracts from the working example. One first example would be from a national netball team. We were not getting the medals, and after 31 years, we were the champions of that in that region. So when we started working, you can see here in the first picture the awareness. You see here awareness. So this is where, as a psychologist, I go then, I give them basic knowledge about what we're going to do, because Many athletes also may not know. So awareness, self-awareness, awareness about what we are going to do is one thing. You would see here a training session which is starting. When I say awareness, it doesn't finish with one class. I'm just having one picture. So you start a training session. You can see here your assistant coach is there and all of us are sitting. And here you see there's a coach here. There's me who's giving instructions. Now what instructions are given, we won't have time to tell, but this is how a mental training goes. And after I finish those instructions, there is a debriefing given by the assistant coach. And this is the national coach here. She was from Australia. So in a pre-competition stage, preparatory stages, every different skills, whatever your lecturers are teaching you, maybe it's cognitive skills, maybe it is performance, whatever it is taught here. This is another example. I'm sure you all know what is the progressive relaxation. So we teach the athletes how exactly they should do it so that in the competition, you may not get this much of time to do that. So I'm not going to tell you the steps in this. You will learn it in your masters or your undergraduates. Now, when we go to the competition session, like see, this is a team. I think we are in Thailand. I'm not sure which place. Yeah, I think it is. So when the athletes are training, as a psychologist, we don't sit in the room. We go with them in the training. Basically, what we're doing is we are observing each and every athlete in action. You might have learned, your professors might have taught you, students, about participant observation and non-participant observation. So that is what is actually happening here. So when you sit in the ground, it doesn't mean you're just sitting and just seeing, but you are observing. There's a big difference between seeing and observing. So you're also taking down notes on what are their behavioral actions and things like that. Now coming to after the match, a day before the competition. This is in a hotel room. You see the national coach here. You see the athletes here. This is in my room. So what we're trying to do is, we are trying to tell the athletes how to identify, verbalize their strength. So they are made to write down. You see, this is an Australian coach, and you see this is how they work. So they're making them to write down what are the strategies or what are our strengths, what is the strength of the opponent team, and you would see here the coach giving necessary instructions. And I would like to say, please note this yellow color paper here. I want to say, I also learned it over there. She specifically wanted this color. And when I asked her why you wanted that color, she said, we are playing Sri Lanka tomorrow. And Sri Lankan jersey color is this. So the simulation has to be the closest. And this is how the Westerners work. So we also have something to learn. So if it is Hong Kong, then we use a different color paper. It may be a very small thing when we look at it, but I do find a reason to what the coach says. So this is a pre-planning, giving instruction to each and every athlete, attackers, defenders, the scoring people. That's what you see here. And the assistant coach is here. They are supporting what is to be done. So over here, what you see is, after they finish writing, now these are the defenders. We paste it on our wall, and you can see there are two sides to it. You would see what are the strong point of ours as a team, what are the opponent's strong point. So each group comes out with that, and then finally the coach comes out, okay, now each one of us know what are the team, and now as a combined team, what should be the strategy to deal with this team for tomorrow. Now this happens every night before a match is happening. So most of you may know the sports from outside. You may be just seeing that they are playing, but behind the back, there is a lot of scientific work which goes on. And as a psychologist, particularly when you're traveling with the team and in a competition, there is a lot of work that you have to do. I will tell you what you do after this. Okay, do you see here? This person is a performance analyst. So what his job is, he would be recording the match where we are playing. He would also have the recording of every opponent's match. They have the software where they will analyze each and every player. Now, for instance, tomorrow, if we are playing, say we are playing England, this person will give a feedback. You can see it's connected to the to the TV, and he will give a feedback of every opponent team over there. And now, after the performance analysis is over, you can see here the athletes have turned this side. In fact, I am sitting here, coach is giving instructions to each one of them, and I am actually asked to give a mental training. You might have learned about visualization, or you might have learned about any other mental training that is happening. So that's what is happening here. So we work in combination. I think in the first slide I showed you performance analysis, nutritionist, all of us working together. So here comes our job when we have to give a mental training to the athletes. A non-competition day, you can see here, you see everybody is happy and enjoying because the next day there is no competition. But again, you see me here, I'm still giving them some basic exercises which can be done in the room. It may be a grid exercise or anything, but the exercise for the athletes, it may look like fun, but as a psychologist, you should ensure that it keeps them alert, takes the stress away, builds up the team. There are a lot of things that you have to input into this. Now that's the challenge in an applied sports psychology field. Coming into another team, which is a football team. Now when you go for a football team, you see here, the coaches would give you, like this is how the calendar comes, January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, it comes like this. And you see here, nutrition, psychology. So it's already listed into this program. So we are already given the timing, where and when we have to do, and we have to strictly adhere to this protocols. So with this, now you see this is the departure. This is the football team, youngsters. You see me as a psychologist, you see the nutrition. So we travel with the team. And this is at the airport. So once we reach there, we follow all the steps that I've given. I'm not showing here, I'm showing some pictures. Focusing exercises in the lab. But understand one thing, athletes are mostly in the field. So we design certain exercises to help them to center. You can see here, they are in twos. The athlete is asked to first count in twos backward and push this hand down. And then the second time, the athlete is asked to focus so that this person will not be able to push down. Indirectly saying, if you focus, the opponent will not be able to overtake you. Excuse me. So there are activities which you might have to design in an ambient way. So since they are footballers, we do the similar exercise with the foot also. Now here there is a session. This is on a training, on a match day, where you see the biomechanics and me, and there are coaches sitting here. So this is the complete team, and specific instructions are given to each and every player by the coaches, and I'm just giving them a mental training and imagery for that particular day. And you understand, we just get about 10 to 15 minutes. So pre-competition, taught them all the skills. In the competition stage, the theme of the visualization and imagery changes. Now we also would have learned there are 5 different types of imagery training. You would see here athletes, you see, all of them are given a football. Now this is a football team. They understand one thing, when you work with athletes, they always like to have their ball, or hockey team, their hockey stick, or the cricket bat, whatever it is. So that gives them the identity what they have. So that is the reason why we give them, because they are first athletes, then only they are whatever they are working, or student or whatever. So this is again on the day of a competition specifically. Maybe this is a group of attackers, this is a group of defenders, and others are just sitting waiting for their turn. So coaches will give specific instructions, psychologist would give the mental training. Now this is the national team. This is not India, it's a different place. So small. No, okay. So here you would see me there. You can see the coach. The instructions are given by the coach, and on the day of competition, a team strategy mental training is given. You would notice here bottles. The nutritionist makes sure that everyone takes the clean water, because hydration status becomes a very important for injury prevention, and depending upon which country, I think this is Indonesia, so there's a tropical country, so these are things which the nutritionist will take care. So even when they come for a psychology session, you would see that it is there. And please understand, if they don't carry these things, they are also given, they are fined for it. Okay, so right now you see me there. It's the coaches who's already giving instructions. Following the coach's instructions, I give the mental training. Now you would also notice we are not doing everything in the lab situation. In the pre-competition, we do it in the lab situation because we have a lab for the training session. But when you are traveling with the team, we are in different countries. So you should be able to perform and do your sports psychology support in whatever ambient conditions you get. This is another country where the football team, again, I'm giving the instructions and about the mental training. Sometimes the mental training is not necessarily for their football. It could also be how to control their arousal levels. So then the coaches would stay on the side, and I would be the one who would be giving them the instructions. Now, specific instructions goes to the goalkeepers, to the attackers. That depends upon the type of the skill level of athletes, what they are going to play, what are they on the training or are they in a competition phase. You could also be, as I said, there is in the psychological skill training, team building. Day, you have to make some simple exercises. You have to design it. You can see here, there's some ball given and they're made to sit in smaller groups. Exercises are given, we won't have time to dwell on those exercises. And this is done after the dinner time to take the stress out and still keep the team together. The teachers might have spoken to you about isolates in the group, subgroup formation. So this is done to prevent, because in sports, you need to work collectively as a team. This is another mental training session done in a closed room. We don't have a lab, but place where we are staying in a hostel, and these exercises are just done in order to Khelo India, Government of India rowing team who is with us in Ramachandra. So you see here, there's a rowing coach. We have sports science BSc course 4 years. So we have our final year students who are doing internship for 1 year. And you see them, so we train them along us. We have sports medicine doctors. Also, we have MD sports medicine students who qualify under the NEET. So they also join us because they are the ones who will be traveling mainly with the team. And you see, all these are young athletes who are also school going. So we plan some activities. We don't teach them, say for instance, you want to teach them self-control, you want to teach them team building. We don't teach them as a classroom. We teach them through the activities. Now you see here, this is an activity of problem solving. So we use very simple things which we can use not just in the lab, that what we can use in the field situation. So you have Mr. Jaikar, who's the psychologist working with me here. We have the medical doctor, we have the coach. So you see, we work as a team. So you cannot compartmentalize and work like, oh, I'm a psychologist, I will work only that. No, it doesn't happen like that in sports. You see here, when we work with athletes, we also impart the knowledge, awareness, and a training. So you see here, there's a medical doctor giving them information. There's a nutritionist giving them what to take before the competition, what to eat during competition, what is the snack, what they should not eat, what should they take when they are fatigued, when they are injured. So she's one of our staff, Ms. Gifta. And here you see me giving them the lecture, and you see Jaker also there. And this is a weightlifting team under the Government of India, Sports Authority of India, where we are teaching them imagery training for their lifting. So you have individually, we work with them, we also work with them in the team. We also have the Biomechanics Lab, you see. I don't know if you understand. We have engineers working in our institute. He's an engineer and he's a conditioning expert. So he uses the software to tell which angle the athlete should lift his hand, should move his leg. This is one of the sessions. So the conditioning expert is there, psychologist is there, and then you can see here the sessions where they are discussing, and it is based on them that the mental training can be given. We also have a recovery. You see another conditioning staff. This is one of the football club. You have these ISL clubs here. So we are taking care of their sports science. So there's a recovery happening over here, and you see at times we are also there. Even if you're just going and talking to them because they are injured athletes and they need a lot of social support. Now in rehabilitation support, you see our physiotherapist. So before doing the physiotherapy, there's a cognitive phase. She's giving them instructions. Can you see here? I think it's not very clear. You see how she's giving instructions on the leg. And so this is an athlete. Here you would see before the imagery training is given, before the rehabilitation, they are given the actions, stage 2, stage 3. So when they know the actions, then they do the imagery training. The cognition helps them to work out these things better. Please understand, if you and I are injured, we can take all the time to recover. But sports people are injured, there is a time factor. Coaches want them as quickly back, return to play. Because we are not China where we have 10 athletes who can perform a rotator cuff repair. So if you have, the current level is only 20 degree, we give them a goal of 40 degree, but the timing, please understand as a psychologist, don't give them the timing. Discuss with the coach, discuss with the medical doctors, discuss with the physiotherapist, how much time does this athlete take to come to get this rotation to this. You have to attainable, realistic, and timely. So everything comes in here. Every time you give a goal, the client's feedback is taken, and if he's not able to achieve that, physiotherapist can give the comment. So the goal flexibility, you see, from 40 is brought down to 35 degree. And when he achieves 40, then the 40s becomes the current level, 45 is the next one. So it goes like that. So this is how a goal setting can be done in a rehabilitation setup. It's just one example. Research scientist role, your BA, BSc psychology, then you can become an institute. You could even take up a research, like for example, Research Institute for Olympic Sports are available. Now, we also take academic role. We also take classes not only for athletes, but also for the coaches. So this is, I think this is in Trivandrum, where I'm giving a psychology class, sports psychology class. I'm also using an activity to show them what they can go back and do in the field. Athletes, you know, when you have a classroom teaching, it doesn't work that well. So we have to plan activities. I think this was because Ramchandra has got a athlete 1 May, August, so for each and every athlete. So you see the blue. This is how mental toughness, when athlete came in, these are all actual data in March. These are the areas, you see the blue, positivity, the athlete needs to work. These are the areas of strength. And you see after working with the athlete in the month of May, you see how the levels have gone up. So this monitoring pre-post evaluations become important because evidence base is needed tomorrow if you want to publish these data. During the netball team, you see this is how all these are the athletes' name you see on the top. And for every game, their emotional profile is monitored. I know it's difficult. You won't understand this at the moment without teaching you how to do the emotional profiling. This is particularly for students, but this is how we monitor their positive emotions, their negative emotions, how it works. And we take the coaches rating on each of the game day with Japan, with Brunei, with Sri Lanka, with whomever we are playing. And then we draw out the optimal zone, which will be the baseline for future games, which means this athlete, if he's in this intensity level of emotions, it is positive, optimally functions. This is how it is interpreted. Don't worry if you don't understand this. I'm just showing you after you do your master's in sports psychology, you will be able to do this without any problem. When we are an athlete who's injured, we monitor their mood states. You see here, the dates I've given in February, by March, how the tension changes, how the depression level changes, anger, vigor, fatigue, and confusion. This was just the data of one athlete, and I've just given 3 data. So this is how a lot of work that you will have to do even in an injured athlete, because they go through a lot of depression when they are injured during rehabilitation, and a lot of stress when they have to return to play. This is another athlete, under 13-year athlete. You can see the dates recently, how we monitor the somatic, cognitive, and self-confidence as they are approaching the competition. So these are the data that we monitor. These are the ways in which we teach them the regulatory status for controlling during. So this is all done during the pre-competition preparatory period. This is how we monitor their rest and recovery profile. I'm going quickly because we won't have time to explain this, but like, see, if you see the fatigue value here, it's very high, and you see here the recovery was very low here. You see the blue line here. So we will have to make sure that towards the competition, that is 35, when she's just going, the fatigue level is low, and you see here the recovery is high. So we work with the conditioning experts, we work with the coaches to bring down the intensity so that the recovery and the fatigue and recovery is balanced, and sleep quality is also improved. Self-efficacy, you see here, this is the actual data for when the athlete came was about 64%, and how it has gone up to 82%. There are clear measures to measure this. Now, from this rehab setting, I quickly go to the personal setting. Opening your own sports psychology unit. You can have sports education. If you have nobody gives you a job, you don't have to worry. All you need is a table and 2 chairs. You can have your sports education balance done in young athletes. You can have personal development skill. You have your stress energy balance. You've been taught in your curriculum. You just need to apply it. You can have inner strength building, psychological skill training. You can work with a para sports athlete. There are hardly anybody in this country working with them. Mental health issues, particularly in this COVID season. Veteran sports people are there. You can go in for athletic counseling and other psychological issues. I won't have time to deal with these, but these are the areas where you can open your own clinic and work on these areas. You can work even in community. For example, I have worked with this Lions Club, Rotary Club, local community clubs, sports club, well-being centers. You can have your open parks, physical activity. There are many elderly people who want it. I have done this. I have had my juniors who are doing it in their locality parks. Diabetic centers. There is one Indian student who have done a PhD on creating passion for exercise in using imagery training in diabetic population. Family gatherings, you can do it. in recreational groups, in rural areas, senior citizen group, or even differently able groups. So you can look into your community areas. So these are the different career options that you have. You can look for a job. A job is something which will get you a small salary and immediately you start. But when you look for a career, you have a lot of options coming up. A few more slides on a general details. International Sports Psychology Society, actually internationally, the whole globe is divided into 5 areas. And each area, like for example, North America, Europe, Asia Pacific, South America and Africa, we come under this area. So sports psychology, we have an association in India and we are affiliated to this Asia Pacific, which in turn is affiliated to the International Society of Sports Psychology. We call it ISSP. Now you can look up for more details on this online.org. Open for international registrations for quality control because everybody and anybody started acting as a sports psychologist, so they have opened the international registrations. Now you may want to know about Sports Authority of India. They have, most of them are PhD holders. So they have in Patiala, the National Sports Institute. There's one senior person and he has his juniors working there. They have in Delhi, I've only put the senior person, and they have in Calcutta. Previously I was working in Bangalore, but now I'm not there. So there's also, these are where in Sports Authority of India, where the national high performance athletes are working, they are servicing our athletes. You may want to know where are the courses available. You have it in Amritsar and Imphal, that is for north side. In south, MSc Sport, they have its MA, and MSc Sports Psychology we have in Chennai only. One is in the Sports University, and now we are launching MSc Sports Science, Sports and Exercise Psychology in Ramachandra. From this year we will be launching very soon by October. So those who are from north, you can look up there, and if you're from south or you want to come to our center, you're most welcome to come to Chennai. So with this, I would like to say the course content is basically, these are the course content. I think the course coordinator, your Indian University coordinator would have circulated this. You can look up our website, go to academics and admissions, and those who are interested, you can, this is where we will be teaching you is the sports and exercise psychology. So with this, I hope I have given you a basic outline of what is applied psychology all about and what are the career options. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful presentation. The pictures you have shown were really helpful. I don't think any words would be able to explain this. It was so simple, and we didn't even want to change our site to anywhere else. We were all concentrating on the slides. Let me ask you if there are any questions from the audience side. Please put it in the chat box. You can even comment on the YouTube comment box.
Can I ask a question? Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am, thank you for your presentation. I would like to know, can you give me some examples if you have worked with some high-profile athletes, high-performance athletes, and what are the real, from which all angle comes an attack, because they have to perform, they will lose their contracts, their payments, their practice, their family, everything will be there. So they'll be in high pressure when they play for a country or play for a club in international level. What will be the source of their problems, and what are the tips which you give to maintain a good emotional balance?
Okay, you see, there is no one answer for it. Each athlete has unique problems. So you ask me, for example, whatever examples I have given is only from my personal work which I've done with the notes whom I showed you are actually at a national level athlete. Now, if you ask me what is the source varies. It's not necessarily only family when they are. It depends upon are they key players or what is the expected level of the coach. What is the sources of stress varies when you're working with the national level athlete. Sometimes it's not necessarily they have stress at all from the family side or anything. Their stress could be about dealing with the situation because sports is a very dynamic situation. So that is why we approach them from multiple angles. That is why I said in the pre-preparation stage, we train them on simulated trainings. If this happens, this is what you can do. I won't be able to cover, I couldn't cover all those things over here. So they are actually to a great extent trained on if this, what next? If this happens, what next? So there is no one clear thing what I can say that 35 years of my service, probably I don't know how many of different types of situations. Even recently when I worked for her, she was very depressed and I saw her profile and we realized that had just a small WhatsApp about somebody's death in the morning. Now this was quite unforeseen. You might have heard